Welcome to the real life show, Living with a Chronic Illness. We are your hosts, Cassie and Chelsea. I'm Cassie, a single mom living with a chronic illness who is extremely passionate about living a full and happy life.
And I'm Chelsea. I have a passion for helping people to put themselves first and to be the best version of themselves each and every day.
We came together to create the Spoonies Hub, an uplifting community that offers resources, guidance, support, and offers you the space to be yourself, be heard, and feel understood. We hope that by providing tips and tricks from experts, we help people with chronic conditions to thrive and live the lives they've dreamed of.
This show is not only for those who live with a chronic illness or disability, but their friends, family, spouses, and just anyone else existing on the earth. Our goal is to normalize having a chronic condition by sharing real stories with real people and to show the world how relatable those everyday struggles can be. There's a little something in here for everyone.
And a special shout out to our community at the Spoonies Hub. Thanks to your contributions, we are able to provide flexible work opportunities for Spoonies, donate to our nonprofit to help provide wellness treatments for those who need it, and be able to transcribe our podcast to make it more accessible for all. To learn more, visit our show notes.
Enjoy the show. Hey, and welcome to today's episode. Before we jump in, I wanted to give a quick heads up because this episode hits real, true, deep life show. So Cassie and I live in Wichita, Kansas, and when we recorded this at the end of December, we were having a lot of earthquakes. We had more earthquakes in Kansas in 2020 than we had tornadoes, which is kind of weird. And during part of the episode, we talk about that because that particular day we had 8 earthquakes in 24 hours, 3 or 4 or maybe 5 of which happened in the hour that we were talking to James. So it comes up a little bit. And we mentioned in the episode that we blame it on fracking. We did find out afterwards that there is a small fault line that runs through Wichita, not all that far away from where Cassie and I live. So just wanted to give you a heads up that we learned something new after this episode. Otherwise, it is so much fun. You have to listen all the way to the end. So we had a ton of fun with this episode, and we really hope that you enjoy it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of The Real Life Show, Living with a Chronic Illness. Today, Cassie and I have a very special guest with us, all the way from London, England. Hi, Chronic James.
Hello, girls. How are you doing?
We're so excited to have you on today.
We really are.
Oh, good. Thank you. I am very excited to be here.
Yay.
I must say.
Well, can you start off by telling our listeners a little bit about who you are, your story, and how you've gotten to where you are today?
I most certainly will, quite happily. I'll just throw a little disclaimer out there before I begin. I am having a little bit of a flare-up moment today, so it is throwing me off a little bit. And it does make me a little bit foggish, but, you know, as we all know what that's like. So, you know, can only do what I can do.
That's right. We do know what it's like.
I'm here. It's Saturday night. You know, it's a good vibe, and try and like have some fun. That's what it's about.
Yeah, you're in the UK with your Saturday night, maybe drinking wine or something. We're having tea over here because it's like late morning.
There is a glass of wine sat on the side waiting for me.
Yes.
And I was like, is that appropriate? They'll probably be drinking tea.
Oh, no, if you want to drink your wine, I think the only reason we don't drink wine is because we tend to record at like noon.
In the morning. We'll have to do it the other way around next time.
Yes.
Figure our time zones out. And I can always have a glass of wine at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Perfect.
You can edit that out.
Don't edit it out. Leave it in.
Just do that. No. Perfect. Fine. So a little bit about me and my story. That's quite a question, and I'm glad it is. It's the daytime for you because we could be here for hours. Because I can talk for England as well. So apologies. Just have to like move me on if I go off train of topic because it tends to happen.
Okay.
So really, I have only really been dealing with chronic illness for officially about 2 years. But I actually started a different journey with sort of pain and all things related to that 2 years prior to that. It started in 2017. I injured my back and I herniated 2 discs in my lower spine. And what happened over time, I was a bit of a fool at the moment in time. And I just continued to sort of push through, get on with things, and was like, oh, it's fine, like, get on with it. You know, I was brought up to be very mind over matter. You know, you pretty much had to have a leg hanging off in my household in order to not go to school, you know. So it was always like, get up, get on with it. And it's the sort of mentality that I carried through my whole life. But it seemed to end up becoming my biggest downfall because my back was slowly getting worse. I was ignoring my body. And as a result, things became worse. And I developed sciatica down my right-hand side. At the moment in time, I didn't know what I'd really done. It was just sort of like there was something seriously, you know, wrong going on with my body. So I went and saw a doctor. I saw a chiropractor when I first injured my back, and he was like, rest up, you know, you've strained it, chill out for a week, go back, you should be all right. My job was also very physical as well. So I was on my feet quite a lot and rushing around, which kind of really didn't do me any favors with what was going on with my spine. Anyway, for quite a few months, I then met a spinal surgeon, and the second he gave me an MRI scan and saw the severity of what I'd done, he was like, we need to operate on you pretty quickly because we're going to be causing some serious nerve damage, because one of the 2 herniated discs was completely cutting off the nerve, my sciatic nerve. There was just no function getting through. And by that point, yeah, it was not fun. It was not fun. And by that point, because there was no feeling going to that part of my leg, my body was trying to counteract itself. So my foot started to turn out to like an almost 45-degree angle. So I was like dragging it behind me. And it just completely turned my life upside down. I was very active, sort of lived life to the absolute full before, and it completely stopped me in my tracks and, you know, just chucked everything upside down. Anyway, there was a sort of positive light. Once I found this surgeon, he was like, this is what we need to do. We'll do this operation. Things will go back to normal and you will be absolutely fine. So that's what happened. And a year, almost to the day of injuring my back, I went in to have the surgery, and it was called a discectomy, which is the technical term, not a vasectomy. I've had to very much get my pronunciations right on that when I've been running around being like, I had a vasectomy, that's why I can't walk properly, you know. No, learned that one. So went in for the operation, and it was obviously was a scary procedure to go in for, but it was a real routine thing to have done. So I wasn't too sort of stressed out about it. Had the operation, and almost instantly when I came around from the anaesthetic and they got me up out of bed, I was like, fine. Obviously there was a lot of pain from just having surgery, but that sciatica, like there was a moment there, but like nothing compared to what I'd gone through, and the surgery had done what it needed to do. So things were amazing, and I was like, brilliant, this is fine, let's go home, let's recover. And I was just so desperate to sort of pick my life up, from where I'd sort of reluctantly left it in its place. I had just come home from surgery and I was recovering really well. Like things had definitely happened during the operation, and this sciatica, was on the move, and it was pretty much gone, and that was all I needed. So I was very excited. But unfortunately, after being home for only a few days, it was about 3-4 days, I can't remember because of the blurry timeline. It was, about 3 days after after 3 days after returning home, I was hit with some sort of unforeseen stress in my life. And what that then led me to have to do was fill out loads of paperwork and forms, because I'd basically been cut off financially. And living in London is a very scary thing to be. If you don't pay your rent once in London, you can be out on the streets. And I was trying to recover from an operation, and also then try and find the funding to pay my rent, pay my bills, which is something that I've never had to do. I've worked my entire life. So the stress of all of that, plus the amount of paperwork that I was having to fill out, it was too much. And it caused me to have a nervous breakdown, I would say. I was in a complete mess for days. I was so stressed. I couldn't concentrate on anything but what was going on. and trying to figure out, how I was going to rectify this situation. And as a result of that, my body just went from under me. All of a sudden, my pain levels from my operation were just going through the roof. No painkillers were taking anything down. And I became bedridden to the point where getting to the bathroom was an impossible task, where a mere 5 days prior to that, I was fine. I was walking, I was on crutches because obviously I was in a lot of post-operative pain. And because my foot had been out in this crazy angle, there was, a lot for it to sort of go back to normal. But that was where, I knew I had to do a little bit of work. But this difference in me was just, it was staggering. It really was. And I mentally couldn't cope with it. And physically, I couldn't cope with it. And like I say, I was literally stuck in bed whilst trying to figure out how I was going to keep, my life in check.
And London is so expensive for rent and everything. It's so expensive.
And I've lived here for 10 years next year. And it's my home, it's literally where I live. It's where my entire life is. There's no plan B for me, So there was such a crazy added amount of pressure, which annoyingly could have been avoided if people had done things properly, but we live and we learn. Sorry, it's not me. That's definitely the chair creaking, by the way.
Oh, you're fine. I laughed like 30 seconds ago because we had another earthquake.
Yeah, we just
had come through. Yeah, we literally did.
I was like, Chelsea and I only live like a couple miles apart, and it was
my God.
And my dog was like looking up, like, what's happening? She does not like the earthquake.
So if anyone's like, Chelsea, why are you laughing while James is telling a not funny story? I'm good. It's just because I was like, we were talking before we started recording of, oh my gosh, like maybe we'll have another earthquake. We did.
And there we go. There we go. Well, let's touch wood that there isn't another one.
Fine.
So don't worry.
Thank
and
you.
I didn't notice. Don't worry. And I am the worst person for laughing. I laugh. I am the most awkward laugher there is. Like if there's a place for me not to laugh, I will definitely laugh in it. So don't worry.
I like to laugh. Laughing is good.
It is. I mean, and I laugh when I'm nervous as well. So.
I do too.
Yeah.
So you went through, I mean, that's a lot to go through in a very short amount of time.
It was kind of a year of turbulence, and it was very much sort of this. I remember these feelings of relief I had after this operation of like, oh my God, like things are getting back on track. And then all of a sudden I was in a completely different place. What was happening is this pain was becoming new. I was developing in pain in places that I had never, ever felt it before. To the point where I went back for my first physiotherapy. The physiotherapist took one look at me and said, something is not right here. We need to get you back to the surgeon. I went back to the surgeon. He took one look at me and was like, what is going on? I was rushed in for an MRI scan to be like, is something happened? Has there been a complication? But there was nothing there. He was like, as far as I can see, everything looks normal. So he was like, the next step we need to do is we need to look at going to a rheumatologist, neurologist, we'll get you with a pain specialist. So that was the next step that I sort of took medically. And during that time, this is when my symptoms started to worsen and I started to develop more symptoms. And for me, like chronic illness was was something that I had never known of before, other than maybe distant relatives or friends of friends of friends, but it was never something that I was fully aware of sort of going into this, which will come more to light as I get to the chronic part. So as sort of the time was evolving and I was waiting for these appointments to come through, like I say, my symptoms were starting to worsen and I was developing pain in different places, and it almost seemed like it was spreading throughout my entire body. As well as that, I was starting to lose function of my bladder and my bowels, shall we say, and it was at that point I was going, what's happening to me? What's going on with my body? And I just felt like every part of me was shutting down and failing, and there was red lights flashing. It really was it was crazy. And as this time went on, this is when I started seeing these different specialists. So I then began going through a very crazy testing program, having you know what's done. I spent so many hours on an MRI scan that I should have been given some form of award, you know, constant blood tests searching for what this potentially could be. Simultaneously with that, I was advised to go to a pain management program, which is something that's locally put on by the council here in London. And it is to basically help people either recover from operations or, you know, deal with other health conditions. But I was being sent on the temperament of, we don't know what's going on. So because all of these things are happening, this is, you know, we advise you go and do this to get a, you know, better idea of it. So I started attending these workshops, and that's when I started to learn about other sort of illnesses and things like that were out there. There were people in there with a variety of chronic illnesses, but there were also people there that, you know, that had heart attacks, or they had been diagnosed with diabetes. You know, it was a real sort of widespread group of people, very diverse group of people, an incredible group of people as well. It was kind of like my first introduction to the chronic community, because some of the people that were on this program had been dealing with chronic illness for most of their life. You know, it wasn't just people like me who had an operation and things were feeling a bit weird. You know, we're all a very mixed bag. And it was during this meeting that I was hearing about, like I say, different conditions, and I was meeting people that have now got the same condition as me and listening to their experiences and being sat there like, that sounds really like what I'm going through, but I haven't got a chronic illness. Like, I just had an operation and some, you know, my body's having a bit of a moment. Like, I didn't even begin to think that I was going to be crossing over into, you know, this world that sounded horrific, even though I was living the same thing myself. You know, it just didn't have the umbrella on it. So cut to all of my tests sort of coming back, and all of a sudden a lot of these test results were coming back as negative. I was convinced that I'd developed some form of arthritis purely because of the pain that I was experiencing and the sort of bowel and the other issues that were going on. I put down to, that can be, you know, down to weakness of the spine. And
we just had
a third earthquake in an hour. And that was the biggest one of all three. Chelsea, your whole camera shook.
Well, as one of you checked,
look at my dog. She doesn't.
Why don't you check the internet quickly?
Lily, it's okay. She doesn't like it.
Like it.
What the fuck, man?
It's not messing up the camera anyway. That's here.
Most importantly,
I'm sorry, guys. I feel like I'm experiencing it with you. If that helps.
I know you look as shocked as we are.
I am.
Literally,
I'm kind of like, oh my god!
Within an hour.
If it happens, I'm going to be ducking under the table here.
Right.
Like,
I mean, for the listeners, Kansas is not supposed to have earthquakes.
No, there is no fault line anywhere near Kansas.
Like, we are not California. So, and I firmly believe it's the fracking.
It's the fracking in Oklahoma.
Fracking. Don't get me started, because we'll be honest.
So that's why we have earthquakes.
Yes,
we'll do.
That's
fracking.
what we're having.
Fracking is the most disgusting thing that we can be doing to this planet, and the fact that it has been allowed. It's just barbaric, and it's funny, and I can't stand it.
And now
there's a lot of things in the States that are allowed that are not allowed in other places.
Kansas?
I know.
Is that where RuPaul's ranches are in Kansas?
I don't think so, but that would be amazing. I think I would know.
That's what RuPaul does. That's what RuPaul's been called out for. He's been selling off all of his land for fracking.
No shit. I don't think he lives in Kansas, because I think that the fracking is mostly in more like Oklahoma area than Kansas.
But for some reason,
it's close enough.
It sends the earthquakes up to us.
We have had, like, no joke, like 20 earthquakes in the last week. Yeah. In the last week, it feels like.
They have Thanksgiving.
That must be terrifying, girls. Like,
I'm a little worried.
My poor dog.
We're gonna wake up one day and there's gonna be like a chasm in the middle of the road.
Have you checked the news?
I haven't seen anything pop up. They're all just gonna be like, it's fine, because that's all we've been told for the past month. It's fine.
Yeah, even though I can't open my front door anymore because the foundation and the roof have shook so much that I can't get the door open.
It is funny, though. I have the Ring app on my phone, which I really enjoy for security purposes, but also because whenever stuff like this happens, everyone's like, oh my God.
Yeah. Like,
did y'all feel that?
Yeah.
And we're like, yes. So it's very interesting.
Well,
yes.
I
So
feel like I'm a part of history right now with you.
I know.
mean,
See, this is why I told you, like, it's the real life show. You know,
yeah,
here we are.
I mean, I don't love it. It's not the best situation to be in, of course, but you know, it's an
It's
experience.
like we've had 3 earthquakes or something just since being
in an
on
hour.
This,
Within an hour.
Yeah.
2
Yeah.
of them while we've been on this recording.
And then I saw that, so just now too, before we hopped on this call, that the UK just got put to tier 4. Is that kind of some of that shocking news that you were talking about?
Yeah, it's just don't even get me started on it. Like, it's not the lockdown situation. Like, I completely support it. I think it's the best thing to be doing. However, the British government have made all the wrong decisions on how they've handled this situation. It's been embarrassing from day one.
Shout out to the US being a twin of that.
Yeah,
well, 100%. 2 of the greatest countries in the world, right? No. Like, can we talk about Greece? We talk about Greece and how well they've done. Like, RuPaul's a fracker. Like, it's all going on.
RuPaul's ranch is in Wyoming. I've just Googled it.
Right.
Oh.
Well, they'll be having earthquakes.
That they do fracking in Wyoming too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They do. He does it. Honestly, it's.
Fuck, I'm so sad about
that. Let's do a completely separate podcast on fracking.
Yes, okay, we'll bring you back on to talk about the environment.
All things frack related.
Yes, all things frack related. Then we'll have like a part 3 of the greatest countries in the world, you know, and we can discuss that.
Places to avoid.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so where were we? Pain management groups.
Management groups, learning about chronic illness, and then I was going through my test results. That was it. And I was convinced that I would develop something like
Jesus
oh my god,
Christ!
I saw that then.
Lily, it's okay. Did you see Chelsea's
2020,
camera?
Screw this. I'm done with 2020.
Lily.
I just spilled my water.
Oh no, oh god.
And now my dog is so scared she's hiding on the floor.
I get that.
Do you guys want to postpone? Because I can imagine like
No,
this actually has been a really fun conversation.
I'm having a really good time. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I really feel like
I'm sorry you guys are living for theatre through every second that I'm saying.
I mean, they're luckily they're small enough, like they just roll through. So like
maybe that was the aftershock.
I can't believe.
Are we having 5 aftershocks for one earthquake?
I actually saw that one though.
Wasn't that weird?
Yeah.
I know. I think
I felt like I felt it.
Exactly. We should leave all of this in the podcast. I don't think
100%.
This is crazy shit.
And for anyone listening, that's
I think you could just do footage of my reactions because I've been like that the whole way through.
Oh my goodness.
I'm literally getting home aloneing. My back's playing up, so I look like I'm doing some form of crazy dance as well. All through
the dances. It's okay.
Body just can't handle the stress. It's going through.
That cracked me up. That made me laugh.
Well,
this
is the real life show, and I feel like we are diving deep into the real life.
I'm just going to become an earthquake coach after this.
Earthquake trauma coach.
Earthquake trauma coach. I'm just going to readjust my position to make myself a bit comfy.
You know, to make you feel better, I'm sitting on my hot water bottle.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so
for my
jealous.
Butthole.
I'm sat, so my partner's got this really interesting chair to work on. And you can do all sorts of things with it, but it's all about keeping your posture perfect. And it's actually a godsend. You can do so many different things with it.
Good.
Good.
Pretty cool. Awesome. Yeah. It's like, orthopedic houseware is where it's at, you know?
Yes,
I just wish they make it a little bit more stylish, you know?
I know.
And a little bit less.
But you look stylish, so you're making the chair stylish.
I'll come out with my own line one day. It'll all be like gold and black.
You heard it here. You heard it here first.
That's the chronic scoop.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, so
I know we're on
tests and pain management groups.
Tests and pain management groups. So whilst I was going through this test process, I was also going through the pain management group, which is where I started to learn of other chronic illnesses. And there we go, I remember my train of thought now. I, at the time, was convinced that there was something going on like arthritis or something of that level. If it was going to be something more sinister, I was like, oh, well, it could be that because of the way that my joints were feeling and just the sort of locations of where it was. But upon some of my tests, it was kind of discovered that I had a lot higher pain levels in different places that I hadn't really paid. Ow, sorry, I'm a bit twitchy.
Speaking of
That I
pain
hadn't really
levels.
paid. Yeah, it is. It's like, hey, bitch, remember me? Like, honestly, it's like a superhuman alert. It really is. Sorry, that's just knocked me off my my train of thought.
They discovered that you had higher pain levels in some areas.
So when the rheumatologist was doing tests with me, it was apparent that I was a lot more sensitive in a lot more areas, and to a level that I probably hadn't really admitted to as well. It was a lot of the sort of skin sensitivity and a lot of pain sort of throughout the chest area, and I was noticing, but didn't really, I played it down, which is my usual way of doing things. The sort of slightest touches, hugs, anything like that, it would become excruciating. And it was sort of, everything was just sore, painful, intense. But I was like, it'll be arthritic or something like that. I don't think it's going to be anything sort of more sinister than that. And also, I don't even think it is that. I do just think it's my body having a moment. I was confused by the whole situation. So we come to end of all of these tests, and I first of all was referred to a neurologist, and then after getting to the end of that test program, they were like, we can't really see anything, so the next level is rheumatology. So that's when I saw the rheumatologist, and that's when I started the other series of tests, which is where we were discovered that there was a lot more pain sensitivity in a lot more different areas. Once she'd concluded her tests, which again was MRI blood tests, all of them, once she'd concluded those, everything was coming back and it was clear and it was normal. And I was a little bit like, well, hang on, what's going on? And it was at that point she said, have you heard of the condition fibromyalgia? And the second she said that word, like, my world just dropped out of me, because I had been learning all about this condition and I'd been meeting with people with this condition. And I was like, oh, yes, I've heard of that word. Like, 6 weeks ago, could I pronounce it? No, I still couldn't pronounce it at that appointment, couldn't spell it, but I knew what it was and what it was all about. And I only knew the sort of facts of it, which was enough for me to sort of have a moment. It was sort of at that point where things got to the level of serious that I didn't think it would have got to, where, because my previous job, which was so physical, physically demanding, I was then advised, look, I think you should take a step back from what you were doing and find a different career path that's going to fit in with you, and work with what's going on. You can live with this condition, but it's all about adjustments and blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. But which is what I'd already sort of learned. She didn't have to do too much for me in the ways of describing it, because I was like, okay, cool, I know, like, that's fine. It's not fine, but what else am I going to say? It's not her fault, So went away with that and fell into a very dark hole, just because my sort of worst case scenario had been realized. And yeah, it was a period of time, but yeah, I don't really know how to finish that. It was a period of time that it would just changed me, and it took me to a place that I had never been before. I have struggled with depression sort of on and off since a teenager, just your typical teenage depression, of a very different level, which I had managed to take control with by doing exercise and all of these things to keep active. And then once my physical self had gone and I started to lose all of those crutches and what I used to do to keep that in check, the well that I fell into was deep. And there was a point no one could get back to. I wouldn't come out of it. Everyone was trying. I had friends driving from across the country to come and see me, and people, a lot of people were luckily rallying around me. A lot of people weren't rallying around me, so that's where we learn our true friends. But the core people stuck in there, and they kept me going and kept a light at the end of my tunnel that had very much gone out, to say. Not now. My life is all about light now. This is why everything has to be lit for me, because it's now about creating my own light now. So from this bleak moment, as they say in Bridesmaids, to quote Bridesmaids, the Oscar-nominated
I love that
film.
movie.
Oh, it's my favorite. Like I could
It's so
literally
good.
watch it all the time, like to an obsessive level. It's like it's when the mum's saying to her, she's like, well, this is your bottom, there's only one way to go, which is up. And it's a laughable phrase, but it's very much, oh, that was the chair again, I'm sorry. It's very much, it is a true statement of life, and there is sort of only one way to go. And I had got to that point of being so low. There was two options. It was I either completely sink and let this completely overrule my life, or I try and do something about it. And do something about it has always been my sort of attitude anyway. So I took what little strength I sort of had, and I just started researching every single thing that I could on fibro. I'd already learned about it. Sorry, just to pause for a second. I'm just going to naturally talk into how I've been dealing with my chronic illness.
Please do.
That's
great.
perfect.
Yeah. Just to flow through, because obviously it's all about the finishing and where we are now. And then it leads into the Instagram, and then I'm done. So
no, you're doing
you're
doing
a professional.
fantastic.
You're doing awesome.
You are.
Thanks. I've had media training.
And you're
So-
putting up with the fact that apparently the world is ending here in Kansas today.
I know, and I really wish that it wasn't.
It's okay. It'll be
really
fine.
do.
We've survived everything else in 2020.
You're going to have to
Survived
keep me
this.
informed.
We will.
once
We
it's
will.
all done.
There's
Please do.
a
And then you
massive
need to
hole
kind
in
of
the
put that
ground.
in the copy as well. Like, after this earthquake, we continue to
Update.
have multiple things.
Absolutely.
Everyone is okay. Like,
Yes,
the dogs
yes.
have recovered. The animals are safe. God bless you as well.
I know, my dog is just
Thank you for
traumatized.
remaining professional throughout the entire thing. I would be screaming. I'd be like, I've got to go, bye.
I mean, for right now, they're over. I think. Maybe.
hopefully they're
we
done.
haven't
Maybe
had,
they're
we haven't
over.
had one in. We haven't had one in
Like 8 minutes.
Hey everyone, I know you're enjoying this episode of the real life show Living with a Chronic Illness, but we're going to pause for a moment because I want to tell you about our most recent offering to help you live your best life. It is mywellnesshub.co. At mywellnesshub.co, you will find a comprehensive resource library for chronic illness individuals to live their best life. All those hours you spent searching on Google to find that thing that's going to help your pain, or that thing that's going to help you feel better, or what type of diet to work, what books to read, what podcasts to listen to, all the stuff. Well, we're putting all of that into one single resource library to make it easy for you to find the resources you need. And as part of that, we have our membership site, The Hub, where we're providing education for you at the low cost of $15 a month. You're going to get classes from experts around the freaking world, multiple times a month, multiple times a week. You'll have access to the recordings from the past, all sorts of really, really good stuff. So make sure you go check out mywellnesshub.co.
So you started moving coming out of your dark
into
place.
the recovery. So from the darkness into the light. Take two. So I was at this point where I couldn't really go any lower. So I was like, right, I'm going to take control of this situation. So I'd already learned things about chronic illness and how to deal with chronic illness to a government guideline level. These are the black and whites of what you need to do. But that wasn't enough information for me. I have always been quite a homeopathic person. And I've always sort of believed into finding your own treatment and finding not treatment, because I've never had to deal with, I've never broken a bone. This is the first thing in my life that I have ever had to deal with. So I threw all of my time and what energy I had left into researching everything I could. And I started to find out all the facts. I was reading medical records. I've luckily got a very good friend who is a sort of microbiological scientist, which is definitely not the real term, but it'll do for my vocabulary. And she sent me a load of sort of work to do with fibromyalgia, so I was really able to read quite in depth into this condition and what it all means and everything about it. So I can basically go, right, well, this is everything. How do I attack this? What do I need to do? So I then started implementing everything that I'd learned through these classes. I'd sat through multiple. I ended up going to 3 different courses, all on pain management, self-care, CBT as well. And these are just seminars that you go and sit to for a weekly basis. Some of them are for people with chronic illness, others are just for people who want to get their mental health in check. Again, it's a mixed bunch. And you just learn, again, the black and white rules of CBT, what to do here, what to do there. And then I started doing my own version of my recovery plan. I had continued to see my physiotherapist from the point of my operation, thank God, because he then took me from a place of we were going to do recovery from my operation. He then was like, right, so you've got this diagnosis. We are going to tailor your physio to deal with this condition. So it was at that point all about, we need to strengthen you up. We need to build your core up. I need to put a lot of groundwork in now in order to get as much longevity out of my body as possible. Prior to my injury, I was very, very thin. I didn't have much muscle mass on me. And I was, I did a lot of yoga, I did a lot of walking, I did a lot of climbing, but I wasn't like Mr. Protein in the gym. I was a weakling. So there was a lot of work to do. And I'd also put on about 2.5 stone following my back operation. So I had a lot of hurdles that I was going to get over, plus being in a lot of pain. But the physio was the sort of start of the best thing for me. So we implemented in this routine, and it was built up over quite long periods of time. So I'd have a series of very low impact exercises that were in my capable level. So when I was the first exercises that I were given were so low impact that I barely felt like I was doing anything. But yeah. I was in so much pain. I could lift my leg a couple of inches off the floor, put it back down, and that was me done, but it was better than nothing. So having the physio to sort of see me and guide me through that was it was perfect. And I ended up building quite a good relationship with him. Even though I failed most of my exams in school, I always had the want to work, and I've always had that like inner SWAT in me. I always want to do everything right. So when I'd see him, I'd be like, I need to make sure that I do this so he can see that I'm making the effort and, help sort of build me up. And that's what he basically started to do. And over this sort of time, it was very, very slow at the beginning. I was doing my physio, which was taking me about an hour a day to do 5 postures, purely because of how exhausting and painful it was. But the more I did it, the more I got to sort of know my pain levels, know what to sort of push through. And very slowly, I started to gain a little bit of sort of control back over my muscles and control over my body. And this was now sort of almost 2 years ago. So 2 years down the line, I have built up a lot of muscle now. My body is a lot more supported. It hasn't taken away a lot of my pain and a lot of my symptoms, but it's making me feel a little bit more in control. And it has become the thing that keeps me in control. If I do that physio every single day, no matter how I feel, it's going to do me a favor. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow. It's just I've really had to change my frame of mind into that, because there were so many points where I was like, I don't want to do this, it hurts, why should I bother? And I went through all of those voices and those demons to the point where I was like, nope, like, if you want to change it, you've got to change it. You've got to change that routine and break that habit of a lifetime of not wanting to. I was awful in PE in school and exercise. Like we do cross country. I don't know what it's called in the States.
Yeah.
Like miles running, and I just always be walking at the back with my best mate, usually smoking, just being like, no.
He refused.
I was that kid. But I was also very nice. So sorry, train of thought again.
No, that's okay. I'm really glad that you mentioned consistency, because that is one of the biggest themes, with chronic illness. And even I was even reminded of it just yesterday, because I'm going to physiotherapy, which is physical therapy here in the US. And my back was messed up too, and she was working on it. And I told her, this past week I'd been in a lot of pain, and I didn't go for my walks, and I didn't do my stretching at night that I've been needing to do because of my pelvis and stuff. And I was the worst in my pain levels and my mobility going into the appointment yesterday. And it was just a reminder of like, you have to, even when you don't feel your best, even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an inch of movement, like you said, you have to just keep doing it.
And it's literally
And it's
like
a practice.
It's
You have
lowering
to keep doing
your
it.
completely. And I've learned it's lowering your expectations. Before I injured my back, I was a perfectionist. Everything had to be right. Everything had to be correct. If I was in yoga, it had to be the best position. I was always very that person, and I had to retrain myself to be like, okay, like we have to do things slightly different, and I'm not going to like some of it. I have had to have that real chat with myself, and I still have to have that chat with myself sometimes. I go, right, slap myself across the face and go, right, what do you need to do here?
Yeah.
Because I've learned it, and I am a firm believer in practice what you preach. So that is why Chronic James, which I will talk about later, has very much invested in me making sure that I am keeping myself in the best possible health, and having those reminders. Like, for example, I woke up this morning, my back, I was filming some content yesterday, and my completely buggered my back in the process, which I knew I was doing. It's very naughty on me, but I was like, oh, I'll just push through for 5 more minutes. And I've woken up this morning in so much back pain. And I either had the similarity with you, I was like, right, do I stop what I'm doing and do nothing because I'm scared to move, or do I continue what I need to do, but at the pace I did? So I was like, right, go through my routine, did my physio. That made a massive difference. Didn't take things away, but I was like, okay, I've got some control here now.
Yeah.
Managed to go out, have a little walk, which relieved me in the moment. But then when I got back, things flared up again. And I was like, right, I've got to see my girls and get ready. So again, I was then learning to do the rest and the chill out.
So, so it's like this cycle where I'm like, okay,
what do I do in this situation?
Yeah. And
have you got an orthopedic pillow?
So I have all sorts of contraptions, and I have found that the best thing is lying down. The first month after the surgery, I couldn't even lie on my back because it would put pressure on my butt cheeks, and so it was only laying on my side. Now laying on my back feels good, but it's more of I've created a good balance. Like, I go for a walk each day, even if it's short. I go from my standing desk to sitting desk to laying in bed. I just need to, it's kind of like you're saying, I need to just move. Yeah. I need to just move around. And if I stay in one position for longer than about an hour and a half,
it's too much.
It's no good. Yeah, but even just 2 months ago, it was like, I couldn't stay in that position or in the same position for longer than 20 minutes.
You poor darling. I've built it up. Even
so I feel you
just thinking about it.
I know.
That's different though, darling. I mean, my hat goes off to you for that one, because that is not.
Well, me to you.
Just all of it. So many questions about rectal surgery, but we'll talk about that on another podcast.
Yes, we'll have you back on for
podcast number 4.
So we can talk about buttholes.
Yeah,
buttholes is a topic that we talk about
very
more often than I think most podcasts talk about.
Well, I am quite happy to. I'm becoming very open about that area because it's fucking scary. So I'm like, we'll talk about it because it's an interesting one.
Oh, good.
It is.
We'll save that for the Bumhole podcast.
Okay.
Love it.
Yay.
So I was. We were getting into physiotherapy and what I was doing
management.
in order to get onto my recovery, on my road to recovery. So simultaneously with the physio that I was attempting to do and sort of build into my routine, because that was the luxury of what was going on. I couldn't work. There was no way for me to work. The job right now for me to do was myself. I had to treat myself like I was at work. So making sure that I was scheduling a physiotherapy and starting to build that routine around my sort of, not necessarily my levels, but making sure I was getting a decent balance in there. So doing the physio, making sure there was time for meditation, making sure there was time for relaxation, making sure that there was time to do all of these things that I had been learning about. And that's sort of what they went over. It was all of the things: how to deal with pain, how to take your medication properly, what foods you should be eating, what foods you shouldn't be eating. And again, that's what I then rebased my research on. I sort of went in more depth about what they'd said, because I was like, okay, so what about this and what about that? And just basically did as much extra research as I could. And as I was doing this research, I was trialing and erroring. I was going through a game of trial and error, and I was trying things, seeing if they worked. If they did, I'd keep them in. If they didn't, I'd drop them back off. And I'm very much experimenting and seeing what was going to sort of work out for me. Have I found all of the answers yet? No, I have not, because I feel like there is a lot more in terms of dealing with chronic illness to happen in the future. I feel like a lot of the things that we need aren't available yet. And unfortunately, I don't think the research is going into it just yet to the level that it needs to be. Chronic illness is treated as a blanket. Everyone is treated the same. That's why I was going to this support group, and I was there with people with every single variety. You know, it's all treated in a very similar way. And that's why I was like, okay, I need to figure my own path with this out. So I basically started implementing all of those things. By that point, I was like, I need to figure out going back to work. So I gave myself a bit of a deadline. I was like, right, I'll have to go back and at least, start part-time. And so that gave me a goal to, get myself in as best condition as I could so that I can, try and pick my life back up, or whatever I could pick back up. So that's where I sort of spent about a year of my life, really, was focusing purely on everything that I needed to be doing and making sure that I was doing it to get myself to this place. It was on that journey that I started working with a health coach. Again, it was something that had been recommended through my doctor. Here, I don't know what it's like in the States, because I know it's medical care and all of that. I know it's so... I don't understand it, basically. So I don't know what it's like. The NHS, whatever is going to be left of it, was running okay. It's definitely falling apart at the moment. But at the time, there were a lot more sort of programs and things available. And again, anything my doctor would offer me, I was like, I'll take it. I'll see anybody. I'll speak to anyone. I was desperate for as much information, as much knowledge as I could, became my sort of new obsession. I was like, I'm not focusing on any of the dark shit. I'm not focusing on anything that's gone wrong. I'm focusing on this right now. This is my priority. We'll get to the rest of that later, prioritize. Anyway, that's the sort of, like I say, that's the journey I went on. And I know, sorry, I've gone again, my train of thought.
No, you're okay.
So the health coach, so I was seeing a health coach, wonderful, wonderful woman. We bonded instantly, purely because we have the same sort of outlook on life. I've always been a very happy-go-lucky kind of person. I definitely lost it for quite a period when I was going through the shift and the transition into this new world. But he's come back now, and she really helped me sort of bring that back. And it was along that sort of route that Chronic James was created. Now, I'd already sort of been given the advice of a friend here, and she said, look, I think you should start blogging your experience. I think it'd be really good, and having get onto it. So she gave me the sort of the light bulb. And then it was during these life coaching meetings that it actually was developed. I mean, name hadn't been bought. The name hadn't been bought. It's my name. What am I talking about? I hadn't thought about the name or got into that point, so I even begin to start thinking about it. But I was like, I had this idea. So I said this to the this health coach, and what I was really noticing was everyone in these groups that I was going to, the numbers would dwindle. So you'd start with 50 people, and I was finishing these courses with 4 people. Everyone was falling off the wagon with it, purely because, no disrespect to the people that were teaching it, but it was all because it was government guidelines. It was all very, very black and white, and it was boring. I only listened because I wanted the answers, and obviously I was sat at the front with my glasses on, like, I'll answer all the questions, shit myself. Yes, here.
Yes.
So yeah, sorry, I've done it again. Tell a joke and then it just throws me off. I'd be an awful comedian, wouldn't I?
Yeah, starting your account.
Yeah, so the account, so that was it. And it was during the health coach appointments that, we began creating goals. They were health goals for me. So because I'd already implemented so many off my own back, like my physio and things like that, there wasn't really much for me to be setting a goal for. I think a lot of people that were seeing her weren't doing anything. So it would be, okay, walk for 5 minutes a day. You know, it would be setting those starting goals that I had already been doing and I've been doing for 6 months. So I'd already kind of taken control of that and was running it fairly okay. I was obviously having wobbly moments, but that's how it is. And so I was like, right, okay, I am going to create an Instagram account and I am going to start sharing the information that I have learned and also sharing things in a slightly different way, because sort of through all of this, my Instagram was all very fashion based. That was my old world. And I'd started following chronic illness and fibromyalgia and these sort of accounts. And I was looking at the conversation that was being had by a lot of people. And I was really looking at that world as an outsider, even though I was living the same things. It was already a functioning thing, you know, the whole chronic community. I saw it and was like, oh my God, there is, look at this, look at all of these amazing people. And I wasn't the account wasn't created. I was literally just in the background following it all from a distance and just noticing the conversations that were being had. And I sort of agreed with everything that was being said. It was so nice to feel so relatable and having all these people understand what I was going through. And I was like, God, this is, this makes me want to be even more a part of this. And then how do I join this conversation? What do I bring to this? You know? So all of these things were sort of sat in the back of my brain for a good year. You know, I was thinking about what I wanted to say, my premise of it was going to be, and I also wanted to be in a position to come back and talk about it properly. I tried very hard when I first started making these not promises, what did I call them before? Goals. Obviously, when I was setting these goals, I was trying to achieve them at the same time. So I was sitting down, I was recording myself, I was trying to talk to camera, which is I find really fucking difficult. And this is why this is helping me right now. And everything that I filmed, I watched back and was like, I can't put that person out there because there was nothing there. Even though I was doing all of this work, I still wasn't me. You know, I wasn't who you see right now. I was a different person trying to refine myself. And every time I watched myself back, that's all I saw. And it was too much. And I was like, this isn't the person that I want everyone to meet. You know, this isn't how I want my story to be. I want to inspire rather than upset, I think, or, you know, or the way that I look at it, we've all got so many issues going on ourselves. Everyone has their own completely different sort of rhythm with chronic illness. Everyone has their own experiences and everyone's experience is completely valid. And I love seeing that and reading people's stories, but I want to keep Chronic James slightly away from that in my thinking. Am I making sense or am I going a bit rambly? Because I feel like I'm rambling.
No, I think it makes sense.
Am I making sense? So I've stopped. This is why I hate recording myself, because I just lose faith in what I'm saying.
No,
and I think do I make sense?
I do that all the time when we're recording podcasts, but I think one of the reasons that Cassie and I, when we found your account, really enjoyed it was because you're not only talking about what it's like to have a chronic illness, what life is like with fibromyalgia, you bring so much of your personality onto it. You share your fashion. You share that chronic illness is not just the illness. We talk a lot on the show that illness is not, it's not all of you. There's so much left of your life.
So much more. And there's another story that I think needs to be told out there. And this is one of the reasons why I created the account. I'll try and reword what I was saying before because I was going a bit weird. I feel like there's a different conversation that needs to be sort of told. And that's what I wanted to come back as. I wanted to come back with someone that I don't have the answers. I'm still very much in the trenches living it myself, but I want to give a slightly different experience and maybe introduce people to what I've been introduced to and what I found and these lessons that I've gone to, and just genuinely how we need to sort of take it easy on ourselves, you know, and how we need to be a little bit more relaxed on ourselves and stop listening to so much of the frantic noise out there. Because I see a lot of people, there's a lot of defense from the chronic community, and I completely stand by it. You know, it is this, we live in such fear of stigmas of people and what's society going to think about this and what on this, and I can't. People thinking that, you know, I posted about it sort of today actually about the importance of resting and really sort of relaxing your body. And for me, I had to really break down that stigma of people thinking that I was lazy, you know.
Yeah.
And I know that that's very much a voice in the chronic community of saying, you know, I'm not lazy, this is my chronic illness. And it's all of that chatter and that noise that I want to change. I want to break the stigmas down a little bit, and I want us to kind of pull a middle finger to anybody who actually thinks that, because that is how we move away from it. People think what you think, judge what you judge. That's on you at the end of the day. That's the voice that I kind of want to bring with my account. And I really see a shift in the chronic community. I feel like, especially with COVID and what that has done to the world, you know, it's really opened up people's eyes in a different way. And I think it's time that the chronic community sort of followed suit, and it was more of a mainstream thing, because I do feel like it's shoved to the sides a little bit, and we're more of the nuisance in society rather than, okay, actually, what are these people going on? You know, what's with these people going on in their lives? What are they dealing with? And because I feel like I've sat on both sides of the spectrum, because 5 years ago, like I said, I didn't know what chronic illness was. I didn't know all of these symptoms and how it would feel. And now I'm sat in a very different position with an amazing load of people around me that are all fighting and just being real heroes in society, and completely not getting, you know, the acknowledgement for it. So all of these things were the fighting force for me wanting to create this account. But like I was saying, I was not there. I was not there physically. I was not there mentally to come back in to be this person and to be a slightly different voice out there. But this year I was like, you know what, I'm going to do it. So in May, another friend was encouraging me. She was like, get on it, do it. And by that point I had the name, because I was like, oh, Chronic James is quite cool, you know, like
it's really good.
Sort of,
I love it.
It was an idea at the time. It was an identity. And I was pitching everyone this idea. I was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do all of these things. And then it just never happened. So I was like presenting this idea that then just didn't take off. And then in May I was like, COVID's happened. I've lost my job because of COVID, my part-time job. Nothing's going on. This is now the opportunity. Let's start Chronic James, and let's start this conversation. And it has become one of the best things that I have done this entire journey over the last almost 4 years of my life. It has, like I was saying to you before, like I'm a firm believer in practice what you preach. And so the aesthetic that I am putting out there, I very much try to adhere to it. I don't mean aesthetic as in like looking like dressing up and stuff. I don't walk around my house dressed up like this all the time, you know, just popping to the shop for a loaf of bread. Would you like anything?
Yes.
You know what I mean? No, just the mindset. And what started happening to me when I was creating my quotes and things like that, I would immerse myself into that quote. I was I'm dyslexic, so I'm so paranoid about spelling. So I'd be reading it and immersing it. And it was making me go, okay, I see what this means. And rather than me just sort of writing down a quote and saying, there you go, follow this, do what you need to do, I was going, like, if you're going to write these things, you have to implement them back into your own life, and you need to follow these rules that you're setting into place for yourself. And basically the whole message that I talk about is, don't feel any shame, you know, do what you can do. It doesn't matter if you take 1 step or 30 steps, you know. It is this wanting everyone to just relax with themselves a little bit and just be better to themselves, you know, and treat yourself the way you treat other people.
Your
there
account,
you go.
your account definitely does that. It's an amazing account. So you're
Thank you
Chronic
very
James
much.
on Instagram. Is there
Chronic
any other
James
place?
on everything.
So
Chronic
where are you on?
So I've just started a TikTok because I'm trying to get down with the kids. So that's Chronic_James. And then there's a website in development that's coming soon.
Very exciting.
Yeah, I'm just kind of going with it. I have a lot of plans. I'm not just coming on it. I'm not just sort of creating memes and doing the odd fashion shoot.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of ideas in my head of how we can change the voice for this community a little bit.
And how you can be the light.
Well, if I can be someone's light, then I am happy with that. You know, it's this drive for myself. I can't sit back and watch some of the things that I see happen to people and see people the way they are with themselves. Like it makes me too sad, you know, and I know how it feels to be in that hole, that place that you feel like you cannot come back from. You know, I have been there, and I've been there a couple of deep times. This time last year, full disclosure, I was in a really bad way, mentally, physically. I really wasn't dealing with the change in my body, with the temperature drop, and I was a complete and utter mess. This year has been very different, and mainly because Chronic James has helped me. It's given me some focus, which is what I need, and I also need to fulfill my brain as well, because it always just wants to do things, and giving myself this voice has just been a really encouraging thing for me. And the fact that other people find it encouraging is just such a gift. You know, it's a weird tool that I'm using, which, you know, other people are responding to, and that, you know, people have never really taken me seriously throughout my life. There's always been an element of, oh, well, that's James, whatever. It's mainly because of the way that I've looked, or the tattoos, and you know, and I'm a laugher, I'm a bit of a joker, and there's always been this element of just not taken seriously. And since I have started this account, I have never met such a group of people that take me seriously and also help me and build me up to a completely different place that I didn't think
that's
was
amazing.
sort of possible again. And it has been such a reward. It really
so
has.
This is like definitely your first podcast of many.
Yeah, I've done another one.
Oh, good.
Which, yeah, and unfortunately it didn't go out. No, it did go out for the host. But unfortunately I didn't repost it because my father passed away, unfortunately. And it was sort of happened all around that time. And
sometimes
then by that
timing
point,
doesn't work.
Yeah,
and
it really, it was awful, because it was lovely and it was a really nice chat, and we had such a good time. And we're going to do a take 2. So, you know, shout
Very
out
fun.
to it.
Yeah.
Well, we have had so much fun talking to you.
Good. Sorry, we need to go, don't we? I'm talking too much.
Oh, no, you're good.
You're not talking too much. It's been wonderful.
This has been so much fun.
If I'd have had wine, you wouldn't have been. I'd be like, no, you can't hang up. Stay and talk to me all night.
Well, this has been so
good.
Great. Thank you for putting up with the fact that we've had earthquakes during this recording.
Thank you for participating. Like, I think it's custom for you to have an alcoholic beverage now to come down from.
I know, right? Yeah, thank you so much for just having like a really open and real discussion, a casual chat. I feel like we've known each other for so long.
Yeah, it's been
it's been wonderful.
Like that, but again, I think that's the power of chronic illness. We're all so different. We're all from such different walks of life, yet we're so connected by this one thing, and it's the most painful thing in our lives. But this is what it creates. It creates this understanding, and it removes any sort of weird social boundary. And I
love that.
It's a comforting
You said that
feeling
so beautifully.
Thanks.
Oh my goodness, that's such a good point.
But this is what I think the community needs to build on. You know, we are all here. We're all in it together. We've all got our own battles, and all we can continue to do is to support each other. And
Absolutely.
That's what I want to build on, you know, and I want the non-chronic community to want to get involved with us, and most of them will one day, and we're already going to be well prepared for it, you know.
100%.
I've already felt like an 89-year-old man for most of my 30s, so, you know,
yes.
I'm a running start.
Well, we are here to support your endeavor. We think it's amazing. We were just so excited to get you on the show.
I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have me back.
Yes, I was just thinking we're going to need to have you back on, especially as your website gets going and you have more of these ideas that you're building.
It's a slow process, but there's if I manage to pull these things off, then there'll be more to talk about.
Yeah, we definitely want to have you back on. It was such easy chatting, you know, it just felt so natural.
We've been living through natural disasters.
Exactly.
So, you know,
so we're bonded over that. Yeah.
You're going to have to put some form of sound effect in for any squeak that might hear, because it does sound, I'm literally like, oh my God, I can't believe this has made so much noise.
You're fine.
No, it's fine. You really can't hear it. So
well, just if anything, just say it's my hips, because it feels like they're making that kind of noise.
My hip.
It'll be fine.
It's my hair. Shakira, they don't lie.
Oh my goodness.
Gotta
Well,
laugh.
James, thank you.
yeah, it's been a
Seriously, thank you
pleasure.
so much. Please
You're
stay in
very
touch with
welcome.
us. If there's stuff that
I
you want us
will.
to share, feel free to tag us. We love sharing stuff that other people
Yeah.
in the community
Amazing.
create.
So when's this going out? In the beginning of January?
It's sometime in January, I'm pretty sure, or the beginning of February. I
Yeah,
can't
it's
remember.
either end of January, beginning of February, but we'll let you know.
Amazing. Well, if you want, like, I'm all about like advertising because it's my world that I've come from. So if you want to, maybe I can like cut together a trailer or something like that,
That'd
or
be
like
amazing.
we could just as a little bit of a promotion thing. Like I like to do like give people a week notice. And I also think it's a really because I don't really know how you guys do it, so just let me know. But I can help you. I mean, we can work some things out behind the scenes in order to get as much promotion for it, and we'll get
that would be amazing. Thank you so
out
much.
there.
Because it's a good conversation. It was very fun.
I was gonna say women supporting women, but just don't let the hair fool you. People supporting people.
People supporting people.
That's right.
Supporting people.
No, that would be wonderful. Well, we'll be in close touch. Yay, thanks, James.
And let me know and do what you need to do with it. Honestly, I'm not too precious. But
thank you so much.
Thank
you.
It's
been a pleasure. Enjoy the rest
of
your day.
It's been so much fun.
I hope the earthquake situation calms down. I really do. Keep me posted.
Okay, we will
let you know.
We're gonna talk really soon.
I'm having a spasm reflux for you, just out of the stress that I'm feeling. Okay. All right, darlings. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's been lovely.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you love this podcast and want to show your support, please leave a review, share the podcast with others, or join us in the Spoonie Hub.
If you'd like to connect with Cassie and I, you can find us on Instagram at The Real Spoonies Unite or on our website, mywellnesshub.co, where you can find all sorts of resources and you can find the Spoonie Hub. Talk to you soon.